Brennan, what are you doing here in that cowboy garb?
Nathan, by the end of this song, we're gonna find out who's quicker on the record.
Well, then I hope you're ready to press play.
You know it.
Now dig on this.
Arriba!
Yahoo!
Hey, welcome to Classic Movie Banter. Guys, do you know that podcast where me, that guy Brenton, and that other guy over there at the end of the saloon, Nathan,
Howdy, partner.
we talk about movies that are older than 20 years, and we tell you, our lovely listeners, whether if those old movies still hold up today, and more importantly, if they're still worth watching with your mates. Maybe on a Thursday night. Maybe a Friday. I don't know. What do you think, Nathan?
I don't know. I think any night of the week, Brendan, you want to watch a movie, don't. Listen to this podcast instead. I tell you, that's the right decision.
Whoa.
Whoa, making the big shots, the big calls. I'm so sorry.
How you going there?
Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm just exhausted, Brenton. I've been riding horseback for days, and after my trip in the out west, I'm just here to talk about a movie.
Oh, mate, and what a movie we're talking about. Do you know what movie we're talking about? Because I actually don't. Just kidding, guys, I do. It's for a few dollars more.
More dollar bills. Whoa.
You know that movie that was released in 1965 in Italy, I believe? When was its Western release?
I think like in the later 60s. It's like 67 or something.
I think it was 67, but from memory, the first part of this trilogy was 67, or maybe it was 66. I don't know. But like, as I said, we've already reviewed the first part of this Dollars trilogy.
So if you haven't had any dollars before, get out of here. Go back a week and listen to that app. Because we're going to be spoiling that movie, and we're going to be spoiling this one, the second movie, in our spoiler section.
You bet your bottom dollar. Now, Nathan, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Can you pitch me this movie?
Of course. Can you pitch me the movie? Let's get into it. All right. Welcome, partner. Step into my studio.
Thanks.
Take off your cowboy hat, we don't need weapons in this Hollywood studio. I'm going to pitch you this movie for a few dollars more. Here we go.
Damn.
All right, Mr. Producer. So, Clint Eastwood, he's a big star in the 60s. He's just done a film with Sergio Leone called A Fistful of Dollars. In it, he bloody saved the day. He saved a fam from being killed. He wiped out a gang. He's riding high, Brenton. So we enter this new movie, the second of the trilogy. And Brenton, do you love bank robberies?
I've witnessed one, and I can say that it was an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, it probably was. I mean, we also helped Bonnie and Clyde ended. But tell you what.
Yeah.
Tell you what. This movie is going to be about Clint Eastwood trying to prevent a bank robbery. It's like Inside Man.
Whoa.
I know, but it's not Denzel. It's Clint, and he's going to stop a bank robbery. But he has a rival, Brenton. There's a rival bounty hunter out there who also wants to stop a bank robbery.
Do I sense a team up on the cards?
Oh, I mean, did the Avengers team up in the first act? Who knows? Maybe they'll be bitter rivals the whole movies,
Who knows? But we'll find out.
So these two got to work together or work against each other to try and stop a nefarious outlaw, some generic Western villain, and his gang from robbing a bank. That's the whole movie.
Wow. That sounds like a good time.
Have you seen Heat, Brenton?
I have not.
It's like the Western Heat. Have you seen The Dark Knight?
I have.
There's tastes of The Dark Knight. Let's just sprinkle that into this little pitch, even though it's probably the 60s.
Oh, Nathan, that was a good pitch.
Thank you. We're here in the Westerns, Brenton.
If I hadn't have seen this already, you would have had me hooked and intrigued to watch this movie. Now, Nathan, again, I'm looking at this film and I'm going, like this director, this
what is it?
This little known director, so what's his name? Sergio Leone?
Jesus. This is the running gag of the show.
I feel like we're very lucky on this podcast because I feel like we've introduced a filmmaker that not many people have probably even heard of. You know what I mean? Like,
stop saying this because it angers me. Because this is such a revered artist that I want to respect.
I gotta say, even after the first film, I'd already forgotten that he made it, and so I was like, oh, who directed this? And
this guy.
Oh, it's that guy that I think I've heard of.
It's that Italian fella.
I just think that, if anything, I'm just glad that we got to introduce our lovely listeners to such a filmmaker that is just totally underrated, that no one's ever heard of. Because this movie is very well directed, Nathan.
Oh, Brenton, this is a cake of a movie. You know what I mean?
Oh, a cake. Can you please expound on that analogy, please?
Because you know what? You have a few bites, and you're like, this is good. This tastes bloody excellent. I'll enjoy this cake. And you start you maybe go have a bit of the lower part, then you have some icing, and you're like, oh, this icing, this is even better. Fuck, this cake is good. But then, Brenton, you eat a lot of this cake and then you realize you feel a little bit, maybe there's too much cake that you've had, Brenton. And maybe that's my feelings towards this movie.
Thank you for bringing up the cake metaphor.
You're welcome. Now eat it, Brenton. We've seen Matilda. Eat it.
Yeah, is it chocolate?
Yeah, I made it's like a little Western cake, but it's got like little cowboys on top of it, like.
Sure, a cactus cake.
Yeah.
Nathan, again, you know what? I really love this movie. I think it's funny. Last episode you said that these movies get better and better as they go on, or so
Yes.
you had heard. I think for the most part that is true. I think there's some little things that the first one does better, but I think it's all in the framework. You know what I mean? This movie, the best way I can probably if I was to sell it to someone, I'd say, hey,
You open up your trench coat. Hey, you want a few dollars more?
have you seen A Fistful of Dollars? And they'd be like, yeah, I have. I really kind of liked that movie, or I thought it was all right. Then I'd say, mate, you need to watch the sequel for a few dollars more, because it's a great, we'll get into it, but that's a good title for this kind of analogy that I'm going for here. Because everything that the first film does, this film just does it, but does it bigger. You know what I mean? This film has got bigger landscapes. It's got a bigger plot. It's got a bigger story in the sense of it covers more groundwork. It goes between multiple towns. It's a more epic kind of tale told. You don't get one badass hero. You get two.
Yeah. You gotta sell more action figures.
But at the same time, what this movie misses out on, I'd say, because I've got way more pros than cons in this, but if I was to say a con or a criticism, I'd say that the great thing about the first movie is that it's more focused, I think, than this one in a sense. You go into that one town and you really get to know that town. You meet all these characters.
That's a good point.
The character is the town. Whereas this movie focuses on its three main characters, and apart from that, everyone else is a bit more of a wash. And I'm not saying it's a bad wash, but I think we don't get into the nitty-gritty of the relationships between characters as much as we did in the first movie. But where it makes up for is that probably some of those characters that we spend time with are maybe more interesting than the first movie.
Now, see, I had the exact inverse of that. Because for me, in the first one, I didn't give two shits about anyone in that town. I didn't care about the family. I didn't care about the gangsters. I found them all generic and cliche. So for me, actually, the fact they whittled down the characters in this movie to only just a couple of them made me actually invest a lot more. And also because it didn't have the town as a character like you just rightfully articulated, because that's removed and we're now just following these people. They're the only ones we have to latch on to. So I found that more engaging, actually, weirdly. The opposite of what you had.
I think there's merit in both. To be honest, I couldn't be oh, this one does it better, or this one does it worse, or this one's better off for it, this one's better. I just think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. You know what you also bring up as a good point before? It's funny that you said you would recommend a few dollars more. It'd be weird if people these days had only seen one of the three. I'd find it I'd find it weird if someone's like, oh yeah, I've seen a few dollars more, but they hadn't seen the others. You know what I mean? I feel now, post 20th century, people watch this exclusively now as a trilogy.
Yeah, I totally get you, and it'd be interesting to see in what order people had watched these before as well. When eventually they do see them all, or But what's great about these movies as well, from my understanding, is that I think you could watch a few dollars more without having seen A Fistful of Dollars.
This could be your first, so
you'd be fine. I like it in that sense. It's a bit it's kind of episodic in those serial kind of TV shows,
which is I think how the general public kind of did consume this. With the westerns on the TV, just randomly,
Exactly. It's kind of its genre. You go away, and by the end of the tale, your characters have been on a journey, so to speak, but they're still set back in the same spot that they kind of were at the start. But it's still fulfilling in a sense. It's a weird thing to talk about.
I'm in a weird place right now.
I really dig this movie. The other thing I'm going to say about it is that it's nice to watch something when it's so clearly, when you watch it, you see how everyone has grown. As artists in this movie, especially Sergio Leone.
Absolutely.
You watch it, and I thought his direction was outstanding in the first movie, but this one you just see him build on that, and see him use different techniques, different filmmaking styles and whatnot to take you into the mindset of these characters and to tell this story.
What did you find different, on a directing standpoint?
I'm not necessarily saying different. I'm saying that he's the master of using juxtaposition. I think is when I use the word different. I don't think he necessarily did anything different to the first film, but I'm saying that his style, his grasp on this genre has grown, and so he's taking more risks.
Well, yeah, probably because he invented it in the first movie, it was so pioneering. So it's now that the genre exists, you can kind of run with it.
Exactly, he's growing as a filmmaker. So you see him enhancing that juxtaposition even more, going from those extreme close-ups to the wide open expanses we see in this film, and how there's some different techniques. We get a zoom in in this movie at a
Whoa!
point that I'm not going to spoil.
Look
but,
at
like,
that.
I kind of lost my shit when that happened. I was like, oh there it is.
Oh, Tarantino, what are you doing here?
So it's exciting in that sense. It like I said, even though this movie kind of is very similar to the first one in the sense of like the story it's telling, and
Oh, no.
it's similar in a sense that like obviously I think the perspective is different when I say that like we're focusing on one town where is this one the story's a bit more epic. There's still like the struggle of someone trying to take down an oppressing force from the inside.
Yeah, but that's literally the plot of every movie ever, of someone trying to take down an opposing force.
Sure, I'm just saying that there are similarities from the first to the second film, such as that the actors are the same.
I mean, yes, the actors are the same.
Including the main villain. Like, it's not just like, but obviously the plot is similar in that sense.
Well, it's not
as well.
the same villain as the first movie, obviously.
No, that's what I'm saying. The actor is, but I'm saying the
I
actor.
know. It's like they had a small pool of actors to cast.
So my point is that like it's grown. It's grown into something else, and this movie has its own identity that's not necessarily from the plot, but it's in like the filmmaking techniques, how we explore the characters.
I disagree strongly on that, like really strongly. I think narratively, this is a dramatic step up from the first movie. It feels way tighter as well from the first film, and I think it's because there's no B plot. In the first movie, you're really juggling between both Clint and that family, and kind of going back and forth, like, and also with the gang. This movie spends kind of less time with the gang than the first movie, and every scene functions towards that A plot, which is why for me as well, I found the pacing dramatically better in this movie as well.
Sure, like I get your point, but my point is not necessarily. It's just saying that the plots are very similar. Like they are. Like on paper, if you were to like put the like as to what the characters do in this movie, it's a very similar.
I don't think so, because the first movie is like him trying to save a town, whereas I don't want to spoil it, but for a lot of this movie, it's a heist film, and they're like two different genres.
See, I wouldn't call this a heist movie at all. Like, I wouldn't call this a heist.
For the first half, I'd call it a heist movie. It has every cookie crumb of the heist movie.
See, I wouldn't call it that at all. I'd say like, yeah, there's elements in there that like obviously there's a bank robbery happening, and that's what the gang's goal is, as opposed to the first movie when it's just like they've got another goal as to what they're going towards, like with what they're doing with the army, and how they're getting money and how they're belittling each other. And there's two opposing gangs.
This cuts
going
out
at
all
each
that
other.
fat. It's just like, here's the gang, here's a target, let's let loose on it.
But my point is that the main character's goal is to infiltrate a gang and to take it down from the inside. That's what's going on.
Yeah,
like,
but that only happens for maybe like 20 minutes of the movie of him actually infiltrating the gang. Like, it happens like...
What are you talking about? Yeah,
Have we
like
seen the same movie?
okay, that brings up an interesting point. I'll try to get away from this, but like I will say that like for most of the movie, he's infiltrating the gang. Like for probably 2/3 of the movie, he's in the gang. But I will say that the opening to this movie and how it establishes itself and how it establishes all of its characters, I agree. But I know that you say this movie's a lot tighter, but if you actually look at it on paper, the first like hour of this movie is spent basically introducing like the plot, like introducing the characters. Like it takes its time before we even see Clint Eastwood enter a frame in this movie. You know what I mean? Like it takes its time at the start.
But that's the same thing with any other heist movie. It introduces the different parties that are about to like all go and converge into the one location.
But my point is that the heist isn't the main even like moment in this movie. We're not building towards the heist. The heist is kind of like happens and is done.
No,
like,
and honestly, that should be something you should know in the non-spoiler section, because when I was watching this, by the time the bank robbery happened, I thought we were about to enter the third act. Like truly, I thought like narratively we were all there, and then I you was checking a little scrubber, and I'm like, what the fuck? There's like another half to this movie. Did you have that same thing?
not necessarily, because I don't know if I was putting in my brain the emphasis on the heist or the bank robbery.
Oh, maybe just me personally, I was so elated to have a heist. Maybe that's me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, because I get your point that it's given a lot of time maybe in the setup, but like in terms of the time spent, it's probably given the least amount of time. Like we're spending more time establishing the relationship, or not even the relationship, or just establishing the two main characters.
Yeah,
I'd say.
and I like that probably the most about this as well.
And it's also establishing our antagonist as well,
Yes,
who I really
and
like in this movie.
the only three characters that essentially count in this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's great. That's all I wanted to see. And you know what? I brought this up this parallel before. This movie is so similar to The Dark Knight.
In what sense? I think that's an interesting
Okay,
comparison.
so I reckon with the three main characters, you've essentially got like Commissioner Gordon, Batman, and Joker. Like you got echoes of those three archetypes in those three characters. And furthermore, we have essentially a two-faced villain, who instead of having a coin, Brenton has a pocket watch before he kills people.
Okay, so continue this comparison. Who are each of the characters? Because I'm a bit confused.
All right, well, Clint's obviously Batman. Doesn't say much. He's just attacking people left left, right, center, you know, with some sense of morals. You know, Commissioner Gordon, he's that older kind of like, you know, the other guy in black is just like, he's the older type, you know, he's been in this industry a little bit longer. He has connections, all that shit. And then you got this bad guy who is not really as anarchist as Joker, but he is that antagonistic force who lives by fear and by just going with the flow and just taking the money and going out. So I see all that, Brenton.
Interesting. It's an interesting comparison. Like, because I just didn't see it, but I see where you're coming from.
Brenton, I was just waiting for Rachel Dawes to rock up, Frank.
Well, I think it's unfortunate.
Where's Maggie Gyllenhaal?
Well, I think it's unfortunate she doesn't, because I think if you were missing something from this movie, I know that you were like, oh, we can do without the B plot. And yeah, I remember saying in the last film.
And lo and behold, the sequel said, okay, no B plot.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I know that it was a criticism of the first film, but I don't know if you necessarily remove it entirely. Like it would have been nice to have some female characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm all for yeah.
To have something else going on, and there's something introduced, like there's another timeline, let's say, going on in this movie, and like it's good for what it is. I like how it informs characters in this movie.
Yeah, you see motivation through it. It's still fridging.
But I wish we'd spent maybe more time establishing that as to what was going on, and maybe establishing another relation to what was going on there that is left till the end. That I'm talking very like
it's hard in non-spoilers, isn't it? But like in saying that though, this movie's like what, 2 hours 15 or whatever. So like it's already pretty. Like I think you got enough there. If you're gonna add that, I'd say you have to cut some other stuff if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. How did you find that villain as well? Like the actual antagonist.
I really liked him.
I liked him more than the first villain. I'll give him that. Did he remind you of a Bond villain?
You're looking at me expectingly, like I should know which villain.
Oh, I actually don't have like a specific one in mind.
Oh, like you're just saying like in terms of like the genre and whatnot, like as a Bond villain. I guess you could see him kind of like that, maybe.
Yeah, he actually, even through performance, I thought he was kind of doing that like 60s era kind of Bond villain thing.
I don't see that personally. I think he's quite grounded in a sense. Like I get that he has tics, let's say that are from some consumption of some materials that may make him fantasize.
He may not be
see
present
things,
all at
like,
once.
You know, yeah, no, exactly. But apart from that, I think I like him as a villain because he's quite grounded, and there's a certain tragedy to him that you can kind of empathize with, but at the same time, you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you can empathize with parts of him, and you can see why he's become the man he's become in this, and why he's flawed in that sense. But at the same time, that past that is always caught up to him and that he's trying to overcome is derived from him being a piece of shit human being, you know, and making some awful decisions. He's never really redeemed or anything in this movie, and this movie isn't aiming to necessarily have you go, oh, what a poor guy. But,
yeah, exactly.
But there's enough into there that there's enough layers in there that you can see him as a human being, is my point. As opposed to a Bond villain who I think can sometimes be a bit...
We know how you feel there.
Just a bit alien and a bit dead. You're just like, okay, cool. You want power, great.
You wish there was a cowboy in the Bond movies.
Could you imagine a Western Bond?
Oh my
Like,
God.
what the hell?
That would be great. I feel like maybe there has been one done that you and I haven't seen yet, but like, I feel like that is something they should do. Just like James Bond, he's in Texas, you know, it's Daniel Craig. He thought he retired. They roped him back in.
Totally. By the way, what do we think of Clint Eastwood in this movie?
Yeah. Thanks for bringing him up because like, he's great. I mean, he doesn't look any different. I don't think he's
no, which is fine.
Yeah,
like
that's
great.
great.
Fine. It's interesting where they take him in this movie because like obviously
they give him a name, which is weird.
Yeah, but he had a name in the last one as well, so I don't know if it's actually his name.
They're just aliases, you reckon?
Yeah, he was Joe in the last movie. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily believe that is his name, but it's interesting in this one because in the last movie he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna make the best of a bad situation, and then like you start to go, oh wait, you've kind of like got a moral high ground here that you're using to protect people, and then in this movie it's just like, oh yeah, you know, I'm here for a few dollars more, or I'm just a bounty hunter now, and I'm like, wait, what?
You're a bounty hunter?
Was he a bounty hunter in the last movie, or what was, you know,
and because this movie really emphasizes that bounty hunter element, because you also got the rival one as well, did you just immediately flash to like The Empire Strikes Back?
Mate, I was seeing IG-88 everywhere. I was like, when's he popping up?
I was just waiting for like him to like meet the sheriff and have him go like, no disintegrations, and Clint's like, aw.
Or like, what's that lizard guy called?
Bosk.
Bosk, that's it. Yeah. He's just chilling out at one point as well. He'd fit right in well in this film. I feel like Bosk just hanging out. Like maybe like there's a scene, for example, where there's some climbing happening, and maybe like a certain character looks over the edge, and it's just like
his
Bosk
feet
looking down, going.
Clint's like rowing as well. I was like, oh man, ever since we got bought by Disney, I swear, like. Oh, so gratuitous. It's like, that'd be great. Give Disney the licensing rights to the Sergio Leone films and just like bring Clint back.
Please don't. Please
No,
don't.
Please don't. And you know what? Speaking of bounty hunters, how awesome is the other rival bounty hunter? He's so cool.
And what I like about this movie too is that like it is kind of Batman, in a sense, or it is kind of it reminds me of Mad Max as well, or other westerns in that genre, in the sense of like Clint Eastwood really isn't for me the main character in this movie.
No,
it's the other bounty hunter that's like kind of like the main like source of like the.
He's the one that goes through like the hero's journey. If you were to like draw it
that's
up,
it.
Like, yeah.
Whereas Clint Eastwood is just kind of the alias that is the passerby. Like he's still got an active role in the story.
Yeah. He's also more confident in this movie. He's less beaten up than he is in the first one. Like, first one, he gets beaten to shit. This one, he kind of's got a grip now on what he's doing.
Though he does have, not to say that he doesn't experience, his share of trouble in this movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't breeze through. It's not an easy journey. But again, like bringing up that villain as well, I like that he's intelligent, in this movie as well.
He's not just, I'm taking money because I like money. Like, there's more to him than that. Like, yeah. That's why I love this movie more than the first, because I'm like, oh, thank God, three-dimensional characters. I'm like, oh, welcome home. Take a seat. Don't shoot me.
I'd argue they were there in the first movie, but but in fact, the only other criticism I'd say about this movie is similar to the B plot thing I was saying before. It's a shame we just don't get to know get the ins and out of that gang a bit more in the hierarchy of that gang.
They are a little bit of cannon fodder, aren't they?
We are introduced to some potentially interesting people, and like in saying that, like,
well, it's a bit generous.
Well, but you do introduce intriguing people, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like you meet people. there's Quasimodos basically in this movie. There's a hunchback. That society seems to hate. He's found a home in this gang, and like he could be an interesting character, and he informs some.
He just goes up to the cowboy villain like, "Oh, please, master, can I please join the parade?" He's like, "No, you must ring the bell." It's like, oh.
There is a bell in this movie as well. Now you mention it.
That would be amazing. Just like a segues into Notre Dame.
I mean, like, he could have been interesting, but there's two others that are also, in that gang of, like, could have been, and do things in this plot, and do, have agency in this plot, but, like, we just never learn anything really about them,
But this movie isn't trying to do that. It's not, I mean, it could have, and, probably would have done it all right if it tried, but I don't lament that it's not there. Like, I didn't get to know, all the Black Order, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know, but like, it's just, it's one of those things, it's like, oh, I wanted more. But like, maybe more isn't what I needed. Oh, please, sir.
No. Just slaps the soup out of your hands.
Should we rate this thing?
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Me too.
I think this trilogy, oh, I'm glad, man. Like, I think this trilogy's shaping up to be something pretty special.
Yeah, it's all dolled up, We had a first date, it went okay, we had a bit of a kiss, we had a good meal. But this second date, Brenton, this second date, we went rollerblading. And I tell you what, it's been a good time. So,
rollerblading. Do you like taking girls rollerblading on a second date?
Yes, because evidently I live in the 80s, Brenton.
Evidently. Of course. I thought so. I thought because of your mullet that was evident.
I mean, we're in spring now, Brenton. It's time, frankly. It's the time to rock it back out.
If ever there was a time for a mullet, it's spring.
I mean, when I emerged from COVID, it's the first thing I wanted to show the world, Brenton.
Crowned jewel, as it were.
It is. So yeah, no, put this on a Thursday night. I get you probably don't need the first movie if you want to enjoy this one. I actually think you can probably skip the first one, in my opinion, although Brenton would probably disagree on that a lot.
No, I'd say they're worth watching. I think you can watch them in any order you like, though. You know what I mean?
Maybe don't watch either of these two films right now. We'll just go straight to Good, Bad, Ugly. What do we know?
We'll have to find out. Oh, by the way, before you go into spoilers, soundtrack, yay or nay?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Enrico, better, I actually think. Like, I agree. He's getting more refined. Now that, once again, he invented this type of music. So now that he's done it, he can refine it.
It's a hell of a theme, isn't it, though?
Yeah.
Like the theme.
And great sound design as well. I thought the gunshots better in this movie. Just like the sound effects.
Yeah.
Like,
there was a lot. Like I said, the filmmaking was better. The effects were better. Like you said, the guns, the sound, everything.
It's the Dark Knight of the Dollars trilogy. It's better than Batman Begins.
We'll have to find out.
Let's hope he doesn't Dark Knight Rises it.
Spoiler time.
Oh, just Clint Eastwood like painting the bat symbol in like a saloon or something. Like,
or he rocks up in like a flying contraption that just starts. He's like, "This isn't a horse," and like takes off.
I'm just imagining the Batwing in like the Wild West, driven by Clint, just like, and like Anne Hathaway on a little motorbike in the sand, just like, oh, it'd be great.
He should have said in A Fistful of Dollars, he should have gone up to his horse and then just been like to like the stable owner, does it come in black?
And the disabled guy's like, yes. And it's like a little black horse next to it. Just like.
Or like he's riding his horse. Fuck, I'm going to keep going with this. He's riding his horse in this film for a few dollars more. And he's riding a full-size horse. And then because there's horse carnage in this movie, like his horse gets shot. And then it like opens up. And then like a pony steps out of the horse and he's riding the pony now. Like...
And he like rides past the villain and the villain's like, he missed. And like there's like ropes around like the horse's feet just like tugging it over. Like, and the horse does a full front flip. Oh.
Absolutely. Mate, we could keep going. We could keep going for days.
See, the Batman comparisons are there. That's all I'm saying. Sergio Leone. He was the Chris Nolan of his time.
Nathan, let's spoil the fuck out of this.
You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh. So I actually want to start in the flashback sequences.
Yeah.
In terms of the villain's kind of not total backstory, but something that's affected him enough that he's having to turn to the old smokeroo. You know, he's smoking up something there, and he's But it's also the thing that like kind of explains his tick with the pocket watch that plays the music and why he uses that as the countdown.
Because I was confused.
It's very obsessive behavior.
Oh yeah, he's not moved on well, but because I was confused when he first kills the guy, because I'm like, oh, was she cheating on him like in that flashback? But then I don't think they were ever in love. Maybe like was she a girlfriend of his? Like what's going on there?
No. I looked this up, and this is what I thought was going on, which it's really fucked up actually. So he's spied upon this young couple,
newlyweds that got lockets they're smooching about.
Yeah, and it's a nice moment. You're going, oh well, that's nice, and then he fucking goes in there, he kills the husband, rapes her, and she's in such despair that she manages to grab the gun, and while he is in the act, as it were, kills herself.
That is messed up, man.
Which is like
it's horrible to watch. Like it is genuinely terrible.
It's a horrible premise, and it's it's a horrible act by the villain in the first place to rape someone, which is monstrous. But then like the effect that you see that has had on him.
Yeah, he actually is dealing with it, which is rare from this type of movie to actually do that.
That's what I mean. It's an interesting thing.
Like that PTSD in a film from like the 60s, it's like seeing it in Apocalypse Now with like Marlon Brando. You're like, oh no, they're going through shit.
Again, like I said, like he's never really redeemed, and I don't know if he can be redeemed given his actions as to how he got those mental.
But he's not really seeking redemption through his actions. Like he's kind of just escaping it all.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't even think he cares about the money that much. I think he just finds it something to do.
I'd agree with that.
Which is why I think he kind of goes for the biggest bank. Maybe it's almost like a suicide mission for him.
Well, it's like he goes for the biggest. I don't know if it's suicide. I don't think it's that. I think it's more that it's like how far can one go? You know what I mean?
You either die a hero or live long enough to be the villain.
He's kind of a sociopath in that sense. Like he's someone that has done that and like has those scars and whatnot. And he's like, how much can I get away with here? Like and he enjoys like the game of like I think outplaying people and like destroying people in that sense. I mean like look how he that gang seems to be pretty together as much as you see about them, and then he unwinds that whole gang in the space of one night to see like if he can basically kill them all and get away with the cash.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like his loyalty switches like nothing else, and like there's no honor among thieves as we know. But even then,
he's loyal to no one but himself. But like at the same time, like it's so that's so interesting to see like how he just like even like how like you said, it's not about the money, and I agree because like he's willing to blow up that safe at a point.
Yeah,
he doesn't care like how much money like he burns. He's just like as long as he's got a little bit.
Everything burns.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not going to stop with the Batman references. that's just going to stay here now.
But I just thought that was a very dark, interesting premise and a take for a villain to be going through. And it's a shame we didn't get to know more about her beforehand.
Yeah.
Her
so I was confused at the end. You might have gotten this better than me, Brenton. So with the other bounty hunter having a locket, so is she related to him? Because so actually that just went over my head. So what's the relationship there?
So the relationship he says is that's my she was my sister.
Because he's a lot older. That's why I was a little bit like so he must be a very older brother in that sense.
Well, they're brother and sister, and the thing I noted as well is in that flashback scene is that the villain is a much younger man.
Yes. Because of this movie, they grey his hair.
Yeah, so he's...
to mixed results, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I think the intention is that he's very young in that scenario, and it's probably like 10, 20 years have passed or whatever.
Yeah, probably.
The brother has been looking for vengeance the whole time, which is interesting. It's interesting that he's this soldier, like he's this ex-soldier. He's someone, he's a religious man. He's sitting on that train reading the Bible, and yet like his whole life he's devoted to like revenge. And so, like, it's kind of like these bounties that he does, again, isn't for the money. It's to prepare him for that moment when he comes across the true monster.
That's very, very true. And also, what a great way of introducing him as well with that opening train scene. I really love that moment.
Oh, dude. I love the opening train scene. If there's anything you need in a Western, it's a train.
Yeah. It's how it starts it all off. But just how everyone immediately recognizes him, respects him, and they're just like, oh, this guy, you watch out. It's a great way. I love it when movies don't start with the protagonist. They start with a secondary character or the antagonist.
Speaking of the start, Nathan, there's a real shame in this movie that we haven't addressed.
And what's that, Brenton?
Mate, we don't get the red title credits.
No. It's a weird sequence, isn't it? Where you watch the guy on the horse for a while and then like you see the shot. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Like, who is that? Is it just like a random thing to get you into the movie?
Yeah, I think it's a random thing, but I also think again it's the I think it's this bounty hunter, not Clint Eastwood. I think it's the other one, like taking down a kill, so to speak.
Oh, okay. If we're talking about the bounty hunter shooting, we have to talk about that hat scene. This might be the best scene in a Western I've ever seen.
Really?
Just the nothing is said, the pacing of it. They're just both shooting each other hats, which is just literally impossible to do. They should just be riddled with bullets by this point. But you just see them float about. And it's great.
I tell you what, I hope because Clint Eastwood picks up a nice bullet hole in his.
Yeah.
At the end of that sequence, he has some bullet holes in his hat, and I hope he has those bullet holes in the next film.
That would be cool continuity. I'd like that a lot. Like, I like to think that he's just got like a bunch of the same hat like stored in a wardrobe somewhere. So he just like tosses out the old and gets a new. He's like, oh yeah.
I love that sequence too because like it's like they're obviously just toying with one another.
It's
like
such a dick measuring scene, isn't it?
Totally. Like Clint keeps shooting that hat away as he's trying to pick it up, and he just casually waits till he's like out of ammunition. Like, and so like the slow like walk as he goes to pick it up each time.
He's extending the range, which eventually fucks with Clint.
And I love that we get like an audience look into that as well. Like those three little boys are like the audience. Like in that scene, it's like all of us.
They're
are
more
going,
than that. They're the surrogate target audience. They're the one this movie was made for.
But at the same time, that's you and me watching this movie.
Oh,
because,
yeah.
like you said, like
I felt like a little boy watching this.
We're watching that scene, looking at these two kind of anti-heroes who are so like beyond cool, just like going at it. And so like we're there, like the boys going, oh my god,
Yeah.
like, look at what's going on.
You and me are Harry watching like Voldemort and Dumbledore go at it. That's
But I can't say that Harry was enjoying that moment. You know what I mean?
just like Clint approaches like the other bounty hunter and he's like, the auras are on their way, Tom. And then the other one's just like, by the time you will be dead. And they just start going at it with their hats.
Isn't it like, it's foolish that you should come here tonight, Tom? The order are on their way. It's like, by the time I will be gone and you shall be dead.
And then Dumbledore and Voldy whip out their guns. They just start shooting each other's robes, just like.
Oh man, yeah. I can't say I was the surrogate audience in that scene. Like Harry was the surrogate audience in that scene because I wasn't sitting there like grieving over the loss of my stepfather.
No,
and like hating my life and wishing I was dead. You know what I mean?
That's what Order of the Phoenix needed. It needed the scene where like Voldemort comes up to Dumbledore and just steps on his feet, just like really awkwardly. And then Dumbledore steps on Voldy's feet and he's like, ooh.
It's a hell of a scene. Like to let someone do that to you is pretty, like if someone did that to me, I don't know how I feel.
And the look that Clint gives him as he's standing on his foot, just like adding a little bit of dirt to the shine. I'm like, it's great. Like, it's so good.
That you're right. That sequence is amazing.
Do you want to talk about something that's extremely out of place in this movie, Brenton?
Sure. What is it?
What the fuck is going on with that couple that owns the hotel?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Like, what is this couple? Like, for some reason, they've taken a hobbit from the Shire and had him like run a hotel in a Western and given like some cast member from West Side Story to play his wife.
I think that was a real missed opportunity. It's really interesting because like the expectation I had, because we hear that there's a woman running this hotel from the little boy outside, and you're like, he's like, oh wait, she married? And he's like, yeah, but she doesn't care. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay.
This kid's like a pimp.
I'm expecting this woman akin to maybe like the matriarch in the first movie, the matriarch of that gang in the first movie, like this really powerful figure, kind of takes no shit and runs the household and fucks who she wants and does what she wants. And instead what we get this weird like neurotic dude with spectacles who's standing there like going around.
Who looks like a hobbit.
And you know what's funny? I was going the whole time, I was like, this is weird because there's no way that like their lodgings are full. There is no way. Like that is just nigh impossible. And then you start to realize that the fact that he's turning him away is because he's like a ragged, good-looking dude. You know what I mean? He's worried that he's genuine. It was an interesting story because like you realize that he's like genuinely worried that like his wife's gonna bed this guy.
Mr. Steal Your Girl.
And then I'm like, this is bizarre. I was like, like they've got a bizarre relationship. I wonder what's going on. And then he stood off that stool, and I pissed myself laughing.
And I love it. I love it that Clint just kicks a guy out of his room. Like, it's like just no questions asked. And he's just like chucks him his underwear before he goes.
I wonder what dirt he had on that guy.
Well, I think he was just threatening. I don't think he actually like said anything blackmail-wise. I think he just said, get out of the room and just pointed the gun or something, Like,
that's a hell of a thing to do.
Yeah, you should try the next time you book a hotel.
I'm sure that'll be our last episode, Nathan.
Oh, no. Speaking of other zany side characters this movie has, do you know who I hated?
Who?
I hated the crazy old man that Clint interviews at one point.
Oh, Train Man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we need to talk about Train Man. Because why is this in the movie?
So he goes to the old man to find out information on the other bounty hunter after their binoculars/telescope scene.
Yeah.
And he's digging for information, and then this old man goes on a soliloquy basically as to how like basically he was fooled into like accepting this property.
Such a
or, like,
weird performance.
Or signing a deal where like the train company could build tracks like around his house.
Yeah.
So every time a fucking train comes, as happens in this scene, the whole house literally shakes from side to side, and it's hilarious because Clint Eastwood's just like sitting there like casually just like looking around like what the fuck as like the whole house crumbles around.
Oh my
him.
god. It's like literally falling apart. I'm like, does that mean the old man set up the house before Clint got there? Like, so like he has to do it like every hour. Just like, no wonder he's crazy.
Well, I imagine that the trains aren't coming that often.
No.
I don't know how often, but like I imagine that like he set himself back up. He's like, all right.
Oh.
You tell you what's funny is he probably knows in that scene the train's coming soon as well.
He probably does, and he's like, oh shit, stop talking, Clint, I gotta save my house.
That's why he's acting so strange. He's like, can you just fuck off? Like my house is literally about to fall apart.
And it's such a weird performance as well. Like, his expressions, like, if I was actually seeing a little bit of Robin Williams in it.
Sure, yeah. Like the way he like moves his chin and his facial expressions, sure.
Yeah. Did it remind you of, what's that scene in Harry Potter? Is it when, like, in the third book, they're staying at, like, the Leaky Cauldron and, like, everything's shaking as, like, something comes past? Like, Harry's about to, like, read into the Monster Book of Monsters.
Yeah, Harry's room. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, everything's shaking before he gets attacked by the book. Like, maybe the old man had, like, a copy just, like, next to him. He's like, Clint, quick, get out.
It's like, you have to get out.
What is that? No, the scene's happening and the maid comes past, which is like, I'll come back later.
Housekeeping. Raw. I'll come back later.
Didn't belong in this movie though.
So the climax of this movie, the third act, is pretty full on, hey?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because they robbed the bank and I thought that was only going to be it. But they spend like a good 40 fucking minutes trying to get the safe open, and then like he's got to take the money, and they get caught, and it's just hanging in a tree, and
So they get caught, and then suddenly they get released, and you're like, wait, what the fuck's going on? Like, you note that like the main baddie like wakes up one of his henchmen and is like, oi, that henchman wakes up another dude.
Henchman 1 wakes up Henchman 2.
And then he stabs Henchman 2 with Henchman 3's dagger.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? And then Clint and the other bounty hunter are released. And then you find out that the bad guy's master plan was basically to fuck everyone over and like take everything. You know what I mean?
Which I kind of guessed as well. There were too many people to divide like 13 shares.
That's what I mean. Like, so like he tells his crew, and so he's hoping that a gun battle will ensue and take enough guys out that he can walk away with enough of the catch. But he chooses this other guy that he's going to share it with, which is like, it's very much like the Joker in that sense of like, it's like the opening of the Dark Knight. Like when I think about it, like they all have to take each other out, like from this bank robbery.
And it's like, no, I killed the bus driver. Bus driver?
Yeah.
What bus driver?
Not for 1 minute do I believe that the main villain's gonna keep this second guy around and they're gonna divvy it 50-50. And you see that as well, because then henchman number 4 turns up and kills henchman number 1.
Yeah.
And goes like, I want in. And then they realize the money's been taken. And then he sends henchman 4 like out into the fray when like when the bounty hunter is calling his name.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. That whole ending's great. Like the whole last Mexican standoff. There's so many Mexican standoffs in this movie, dude.
Oh my goodness.
There's so many.
It's great. It's especially the last one as well, where it's like the final showdown with the three of them. You're just like...
And what a twist as well when like when Clint Eastwood swindled the second pocket watch and he keeps the song going.
Yeah, I love that. And they still abide by those rules as well. Like it's like great as well. It's like...
He goes to stop him, like he goes to like shoot Clint, and Clint just pulls out that huge rifle and just like swings it around. He's like, nope. And he just does a slow shake of the head.
He's just sitting down, making himself all comfy, grabbing the popcorn for the final battle. Like, it's great.
Yeah, and he sits there and he's like, all right, I'll watch.
Oh, it's so badass as well at the end how he's like counting all the bodies. Like, oh, here's 10 grand, here's 15 grand. He's just like counting them bills. Like, he's so fucking cool in this. Like, and then when he finally shoots the guy behind him as well.
Because it's not really his story, he doesn't get like the big climax moment that he does say in the first movie with the Iron Man moment.
Yeah.
So you're going, oh, it's a shame that Clint's never gonna like doesn't get his moment in this movie. And then that other guy gets up and comes up behind him and you're like, oh, here we go. And he does his classic turnaround quick draw.
It's like the James Bond, like when he like shoots down the barrel.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And he just stacks that guy. And by the way, those bodies are horribly piled up on that car and are surely going to fall out at some stage.
It's no good. And he rides away on it as well as the final shot. And you're kind of just waiting for one of the bodies just to like roll out. Like it's like stop the car, like get out.
What a wonderful final image of those two main characters. One rides off into the sunset. His troubles are seemingly fulfilled. You know, his vengeance, his goal that he's had probably for many years, finally achieved, and he rides off into the sunset, and then good old man with no name fucking has a cart full of dead bodies, and he's just off on the road. I love it. I love that.
Because do you know the final shot of Good, Bad and Ugly?
No.
Oh, okay. See, I do because it's very famous. So I won't spoil it, but I'll remember this and we'll bring it up next week because it kind of has an echo of this for that.
I mean, I probably know the shot, but like I don't know it in the context of the movie, so I don't know.
We'll save it for next week, Brenton, when we do our retrospective.
Sounds good.
Special segments?
Let's do it, man.
Special segment.
Ooh, so special. Brenton, I want to bring back a special segment we introduced in On the Waterfront, and I want us to spend some time on this. Do you think this movie should be a musical?
Nathan, I don't know if the question is worded right. You know, whether this should be a musical, I think the obvious answer is no, but would I like to see it as a musical? The sweet, sadistic, sick part of me would say, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what happens.
I think it could work. Maybe not like in like a traditional Broadway, you know, like you got like a chorus and they're all dressed up like Clint. It'd be more like, I can see them doing it like Phantom of the Opera, like kind of like a rock kind of thing.
Oh, you reckon? I reckon that if you're going to do it, it has to be really Western. Like it has to be.
Oh, okay,
like,
so they ramp that shit up.
Yeah, but maybe it's like a country style opera, which, you know, we don't really know of. So like maybe it is like Phantom of the Opera or Les Miserables in that sense of like, it's all like sung through. but it's all like to this country sound, you know?
That would be amazing. It'd be like the bad guy's like, there Clint is. He's the bad guy. And I look at my pocket watch. I think of her. And he's like twiddling around the stage.
Totally. There'd be a hell of a few moments in that movie.
Yeah.
In that musical, I should say.
The shootout. It'd be literally like Les Mis, essentially. You'd have like the same shootout scenes. Like,
hell yeah.
They'd be like, as they steal the money, they'd be going, we have stolen the money. It's like, da-da-da-da-da-da. And they're like singing and dancing. Quick, ooh, ah, there goes the money. Like all that.
Budding music theater writers, like, you know, if you're thinking of composing a new score, look no further.
I'm sure this exists, but are there Western musicals?
I know that there are like Western musicals. I've never heard of like a Western opera, you know what I mean? Like a musical that is like, that solely is just sung through. Like, you know, you got your classic kind of Western country, you know, musicals in the sense of like, you got Oklahoma, which is probably the most famous one. There's like Bright Star as well, which was one Steve Martin wrote actually. Which came out a few years ago. Yeah, which is all just kind of like...
Imagine Steve Martin as like the man with no name.
There are some country-inspired soundtracks out there, but it'd be interesting to get like a classic spaghetti Western musical.
That'd be great. Bring back Enrico. He's still kicking around.
Sure. Why not?
Oh, it'd be great.
Well, Nathan.
Yeah.
Should we look at this film's poster?
I think instead we should see what steals this movie.
Oh, fuck. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
He's done it again.
Ooh, it's blinding.
Well, Nathan, in case you don't know,
I really
what
don't.
stills this movie is a segment on the show where either you or I, we pick a single frame from the movie, and we decide, well, we pick it on the basis of whether that that picture is funny, whether it's good looking, or whether it's just a lovely piece of cinematography that shows us the true meaning of Christmas.
And evidently this is the latter. We need to talk about the wanted poster, Brenton, because this is the first time we really see the bad guy. It's a photo. I think it's a photo or a stencil graph or something.
I think going into this, it's a transition from where he's actually laughing and then it reveals his wanted poster.
Oh my goodness.
Would I be correct in assuming that?
Yes, that is the shot. Thank you, Brenton. And it's got, you know, the $10,000 reward up top. But it's him, just like with the happiest laughing face, like you could imagine on a wanted poster.
I'm telling you right now, I call bullshit on this wanted poster for sure.
You don't think this is genuine, Brenton?
There is no way someone could take, if this is meant to be like a photo, a photograph from this period of this man, like there is no way that someone could keep their mouth open, like with that expression for that the amount of time it would take to take that photo. And then if this is an artist's impression, the fact that it's like so perfect and it's captured him like having a jovial laugh with a mate is just bizarre.
It's so, and it's like, this is, and like a 10,000 reward is like huge. Like they introduce like the lower rewards in the movie so we feel the weight of the $10,000. So we know this is a serious villain. So why the fuck do they have him just like so jollily laughing? And furthermore, if you're actually going to try and find this villain, every time you go looking for someone, you have to wait till someone laughs so you can actually see the facial expression.
Precisely. Mate, I couldn't agree more. But what's funny about it as well is that I think that the laugh was meant to be sinister because he laughs a lot in like the sinister moments of this movie. But once we see this wanted poster, it kind of goes out the door. Especially my favorite use of this poster is when El Indio goes and opens the chest again. And it's revealed that they've taken the money and it's just his wanted poster in there.
Yeah. And he's looking at it.
I think you hear like the laugh as well, like the ha ha ha.
And it's just him. And he's just like so disappointed with it. And he's like, what is this? Like, maybe he hasn't seen it before. Maybe he's just like, wait a minute, that's the photo they used?
Yeah, maybe that's exactly right. He's like, wait, what?
I want to see this in other movies. You know, like in modern movies, how like someone will be on the run and all the news networks will like show like the photo of them. Like, as like, quick, we got to find the main character. And it's like a photo of them as they're on the run. I just want every character from here on out to be just them laughing as their photo.
It's this really jovial, kind of fun-loving shot. Yeah, why not?
Oh, jeez.
Well, Nathan, I can finally ask, hey,
Hey.
shall we look at this film's poster?
Oh, boy. Blanton.
Yes.
Let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art? So, following tradition, and that tradition being that the Dollars trilogy has great posters, this is a good poster.
It's a real close-up of Clint's face. Like, it's funny because in the other poster where he was in the background, you didn't think it wasn't really Clint. Like, they didn't really have Clint on him. So I feel like they learned from the first movie, and they're like, he's front and center in full character.
Well, I imagine that the first movie put Clint on the map, so they knew that they had to sell the movie based on the fact that it was the sequel to the first movie, and so they showed his character in this poster, like so close up. So you have him looking at his 6-shooter, which is cocked and ready to go, and then in the background you have 3 bandits that are just hanging out at the end of some lonely street in the west with a lovely red backdrop.
It's good. I think this is pretty great. The only thing I'd want to add to you, Brenton, is actually some dollars in the poster.
Where would you add them?
I kind of wanted to rain money in this poster.
Sure, why not?
Or maybe like one of the bandits is holding a bag of money that Clint has shot, so the money's kind of leaking out of the hole.
Maybe Clint has got the cocked gun in one hand and $1 in the other, and he's like looking at both of them like, which one?
That'd be great. Or maybe even like you know how those reporters have like a little note in their hat when they're like from the 40s, like those news reporters. Yeah. Maybe Clint just has like a $1 bill like in his hat instead.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I think it could work. Oh, title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
For a few dollars more, Brenton. Were there more dollars in this movie?
Oh boy, were there. That was a lot of money. There was a lot of bodies worth a lot of dollars.
There was $500,000 at one point in this movie, Brenton.
Absolutely.
You know what? I commend this movie because they actually did run with the title where they said, okay, if we're going to get a few dollars more, we're actually going to have a fuckload more money in this movie. Like they actually ran with it. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's a few, Brenton. It's definitely not a few dollars.
What would you say? How many
well, in the last
say?
movie, say Clint made like $5,000. If this was a few dollars more, maybe he should have like $5,000 and $8 or something. Like maybe some like loose change on the side.
I see your point. But hey, I think it's a perfect title. Like I was saying before, like if you want a movie that is bigger, better, and badder than the first movie, then this is it. And I feel like that title kind of suggests that whilst being in line with what this movie's plot centers around.
See, I feel like I wish other franchises learned from this title. Like for Star Wars, they used like for a few lightsabers more or something.
Oh.
Or, you know, for Indiana Jones 5, they can call it for a few whips more.
What would you call The Last Jedi then, by that logic?
The good, the bad, and the Kylo.
Sure. I'm down for it, mate. I like your suggestions.
There we go.
Nathan, let's pass the power to the people.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
Well, if we look at the tomato meter,
there it is.
For a few dollars more has a critical consensus of 91% with a audience score of 94%. Pretty high.
Yeah, getting around it. I love it. And tell you what, this thing swept up again. This movie cost $600,000 to make.
Wow.
Which is, you know, back in the 60s, I'm sure was a lot. But this thing made like at least 15 million, which is pretty good. So well done. That's a profit.
I think MGM would have been pretty happy with that.
They're going to give that line some good feed, I'll tell you what.
Speaking of happy, David Nasser from Real Film Reviews says, though it's about half an hour too long, oh Nathan, contentious already, for a few dollars more is overall a much more exciting and involving film than the original.
Hey, I'm with that. Probably exciting is the stronger of the verbs. Like, definitely the action's bigger and all that kind of stuff.
Would you say it's half an hour too long?
Yeah, honestly, like I would even jump from like the robbery of the bank to like where he tells the gangsters to go after Clint. I would honestly cut out all the fluff in between that.
Nah, I think you need all that. I think it's more from the start, the first hour, that you'd have to cut stuff. But half an hour is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Unlike Tony Mastrolione from Cleveland Press, who didn't like it, Brenton. He wrote over-violent, over-sadistic, overdone, and over-long.
Is this ultra-violent? Like, I think the effects for the violence and the gore are better in this one than
I did love the shot where we see that guy get a bullet in the head. That was pretty violent.
Yeah, there was a few of those actually. There was 2 of those, I think.
Whoa, 2!
Because that guy at the end, the last guy at the end, got shot in the head as well. And you showed
did.
where the bullet had exited, showed the exit wound, and then he flipped him over and you saw the entry wound.
That's right.
I was like, oh damn, they really thought that through.
Well, yeah, I don't think. I'll tell you what, it's not overdone. I don't think it's over sadistic. Maybe for the 60s, but I don't think today you'd be scoffing at the violence.
Maybe for the 60s.
Yeah.
Anonymous gave it 4 stars and said a major improvement over the first. Better characters, better gunfights, better western. A true spaghetti western.
Ooh.
Better characters, better gunfights, better... I think the gunfights were better for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it'd be interesting to see how much better good is, like the sequel. Like, I'm curious where they'll go with it. Like, if it is actually going to be an improvement as well, because it's already pretty good where it is.
Maybe we'll hate it the most.
Oh, could you imagine? Maybe they'll Rocky 5 it.
Yeah, maybe. Let's hope there's no robot like in 4.
Oh no. Clint's like, how did this get into set? Jackery C gave it 4.5 stars and wrote, it's a hell of a lot darker than the first one, but the plot is far more solid. Do you find it darker?
Yep.
I mean, you do watch a family get massacred in the first one, though.
There is a scene where a girl gets raped and then she kills herself while a guy is in the act. It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, when you say it like that, Brenton, like, when you put that spin on it, it's pretty dark.
It's literally what happens. Ben Bland. Oh, jeez. That's really unfortunate.
Oh, jeez. Sorry, Ben.
Shame they don't make westerns like this anymore.
Like, I don't know. Is there like a modern western you'd recommend? Like, adjacent to these?
A lot of westerns.
Yeah. I know, a modern western. A modern western.
The
like
modern
these
westerns,
days.
if you want the modern westerns, you just look at the Coen brothers.
Yeah. Pretty much. Like, yeah. Tell you what. Do you prefer these films to like No Country? I guess they're 2 different animals. Like
They are 2 different animals. I like these movies.
You're very fond of Hateful Eight, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I am. I like Hateful Eight. But like, yeah, again, Tarantino uses a lot of Western qualities in his movies as well. So you could consider, those Westerns if you wanted to, I guess. Like you could,
Well, that ties into Val here's YouTube comment because he wrote, as hard as Tarantino tried, he is unable to copy this.
Yes and no. I think Tarantino's at the same time, he's paying homage to this, but he's doing his own thing with it as well. He puts his own spin on things. So it's different. Like if he was out and out, like, trying to recreate this, you know what I mean? Like something like when you look at Coen Brothers' True Grit, they're actively like trying to like make a similar style of film, but like in a with modern filmmaking technology and the way that films have evolved since that original movie came out was interesting. So it's interesting watching like that True Grit remake because you can see how much it's paying homage and like how much it's doing what that original film did, but like it's just like it's from a different era. Whereas Tarantino's got so much other shit going on that, like, like, well, who's to say what ratio of like, of like his influence from spaghetti westerns to like his influence from like kung fu movies or like whatever it is. Like, there's so much shit going on that it's like it's hard to say. But like
that's what Brenton says when he walks out the cinema. He's like, "There's just too much shit going on. There's just so much." Brenton, shush, this is a cinema.
Brenton, will you shut up? We're trying to enjoy the movie.
But there's so much.
Well, Nathan, that is for a few dollars more.
That is a few dollars more, Brenton, but where's my dollars?
Well, Nathan, if you want to help us make dollars on this podcast, you can go to our social profiles and you can tell us what you thought of for a few dollars more. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think of the trilogy. Tell us what's your favorite film of the trilogy. Let us know on our Twitter, on our Instagram, on our YouTube comments, or just send us an email. Be classy about it. And yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. And what always helps us is if you guys give a review on the podcast apps and whatnot, and let us know what you think and send us some likes and all that shit. We do love it. It does help us out a lot. So yeah, if you enjoyed the show, let us know. But apart from that, Nathan.
Well, Brenton, I've been sitting here with the locket, and I've had to dim down the audio, but the song's almost about to finish. Brenton, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Kamehameha!
Oh, you got me in the balls.
You got me in the kneecap.
Mine's worse.